I am Diane Sandifer, and I will be co-presenting during this session with a dear friend of GSBA and eBOARDsolutions, Dr. Wanda Creel, who will come up in a few minutes. And Wanda is superintendent of Barrow County Schools. So the way we've framed our time is that I'm going to show you the overview, some of the big picture thought ideas, and then Wanda is going to actually go into Barrow County Schools eBOARD site so that you can see firsthand how they're using our software tool. I wanted to just put the picture up in front of you one more time of all the states that we're collaborating with, because as we're a part of GSBA, and you were introduced earlier to some of the other leadership from states around the country, all of us have the same mission. We're all about public education, but the epicenter of our work is the focus on excellence. And so as you see a lot of association representation here today, what we're all trying to do is to help steer you at the local level in both governance and leadership. Well, all of you know, if you've been in your role for any length of time, all kinds of things get in the way. It seems like budgets and funding are one of the biggest hurdles, but there are other obstacles. Things come down from the federal level that are mandated and state level, and then we're the ones left holding the ball and trying to figure out how to make everything work. I wanted to just bring to your attention again a book that Mark Willis mentioned this morning, but if you missed it, it is Start With Why, because we feel like at our association and at eBOARDsolutions that that's where everything begins. And as Mark just briefly shared with you, there's a golden circle that's referred to in the book, Start With Why, where you look at the epicenter of the work, which is the why, but then how and what you do about it. Well, in our world of public education that all of us are so passionate about and committed to, our epicenter, our why, is the students, and I think it's so important that we remember that every day as we start our work. But then as we look at the other parts of the golden circle, we look at how we're going to get the work done, and it has to be through effective governance. And in Georgia, as well as in our other sister states, we always deal with leadership change. When you have new board members, new superintendents or principals, you've got to have sustained work to be able to continue to get the job done. And so a means of being able to do this, as you've heard throughout the day, and you all know because you're our users and work with us, it is through the technology piece. I'm a math major from my background in college, but I like to put things into formulas or equations. So if you look at the checklist on this particular slide, I think we would all agree that if you really do start with good, strong planning, and that's both at your district level and then at the school level, if you, after the planning, tie all of your meeting and policy work to those plans, then the last part of a good governance model is evaluation, and that's what Wanda and I are going to focus on. I wondered as we started today and then moved into different breakout sessions, if we ever just took pause and said, exactly what is eBOARDsolutions? Because as we've talked during breaks, some have commented, I knew that there were policy modules and meetings modules, but I didn't realize there were all of these other pieces. So the reason I have this particular slide is just to reinforce that eBOARD is really a suite of modules. And you see with the superheroes, the theme of which you've observed all day, we actually have 6 modules so that you can plan, meet, have your policies, evaluations, but also be effective in communications and then have a place for documents. And all of it, as we pointed out this morning, is web-based, so we're in the clouds. But the important thing for you to know as leaders from your local systems, all of the work you do in using technology and governance is aligned. And that's the big distinguisher, because if you have plans but you don't have them aligned to your meetings and policies, you're working in silos. So I thought it was very imperative just to stop and bring that to your attention. The next slide just gives you the big snapshot of what you do at the district level. You have to start off with a vision and a mission, and I know that all of us have that same common belief structure. But then, as we all know, no matter what state we're from, there are standards that you've then got to comply by so that your plans end up in the focus of this slide being both strategic and operational. You've got your district level plans, which are strategic, and we've had some other great sessions today to go into that work, but you've got your operational plans too. This is simply a screenshot of what a home page of eBOARD looks like, and you'll see on Wanda's Barrow County Schools what their particular customized site looks like as well. But this is to give you the big picture. The blue ribbon across the top lists all the modules that are available on eBOARD, and that is to, again, reinforce the integration and alignment of all of it. So strategic planning. I know and promise our topic is about evaluation, but I feel like it's hard to talk about one piece without mentioning all of it, because again, it's all a part of the governance model. So as you do strategic planning, it's not just limited to the planning you do for your district and the system improvement, but your school improvement plans. You also need to manage your technology plans and your facilities plans. And then, as I've said, and it's worth repeating, the meetings that you do are so very important. We know, and I failed to share with you, I'm with eBOARDsolutions, but I served for 10 years on the Harris County Board of Education, and one of my dearest colleagues, Glenda Johnson, is here too. We are in West Central Georgia, and we were a big belief system in planning, staying on the focus of our mission, and we did that through using eBOARD because sometimes board members can get a personal agenda, or they may come into their office thinking, oh, I can do this, this, and this. Well, if you have truly tied each agenda item back to a plan, it really cuts down on those types of boardsmanship behaviors that are not appropriate. Well, as you look at the governance model, though, and how you're truly improving your school system, all of the work is good, the alignment's good, but it is so very important that you do evaluations and that they be done regularly. So this particular slide just gives you some examples of the kinds of evaluations, but if I do have any board members in this room, I encourage you to do a board self-assessment. All of us in Georgia have not done that, but that is a healthy exercise to go through. If we are requesting things of our schools and our leaders and our children, I think we should expect the same of ourselves. So the board self-assessment can be done through eBOARD. We all do have to evaluate our superintendents within our school systems. That is one of the roles and responsibilities of the school board. Well, up until a tool like eBOARD, that was all done on paper. And that's a really laborious process. I would say, too, that it can tend to be subjective if you do it on paper, because I do remember board members looking at the paper saying, well, I guess the superintendent does this, but I don't really know. Well, we're going to show you how this becomes much more objective in nature. So we, as an association and our development team at eBOARDsolutions, looked at the evaluation process, and we thought, okay, if you do what we used to call a flow chart, and now it's a mind map of how the thought process would work, it starts with the setup, and this kind of zigzags down and up, but then it's designed, launched to the appropriate responders. Those people do indeed respond. In the case of a superintendent's evaluation, it's good if the group can come back together to review the results. And then, depending on the type of evaluation, there can be publishing documents and reports from it. So with a typical eBOARD homepage, as you see all the modules across the top, this just shows you that under the evaluation piece, there would be the different modules that have been done through technology using eBOARD. I mentioned design. It is so important that the evaluation be set up with the appropriate standards in place, indicators for those standards. But what's the most critical part of this that I think really distinguishes the integration of technology into your evaluation process is how you provide evidence. And so at this particular screenshot, what you see is that this would be a superintendent's evaluation. We're looking in particular at the district's mission and vision and beliefs. But who's to say that that is being done or that work towards that particular standard is being accomplished? Well, through using technology, you're actually able to then put the corresponding performance measures, which would validate that, and also policy work that shows evidence that that particular task has been accomplished or not. And then what's nice about using technology for evaluations is for the responders, they're able to fill the tool out at their own leisure, anytime, day and night, and they also can include comments. And the second biggest thing, I think, to having evidence as a part of evaluations is the subsequent action plan that's created once you do an evaluation. The analogy I like to use is, we've talked about strategic plan through the day, and when you end up with a big, thick notebook, and we had one in Harris County for years, and we'd pull it out once a year. The big game changer was when we used eBOARD and put that strategic plan in the software. Then it made it living and breathing and a very doable, manageable document. Well, I draw the parallel to your evaluations because let's just use the superintendent, for example. If the Board of Education does an evaluation, that's really only part of it. If the board and the superintendent don't collaborate on an action plan, then they really haven't finished that evaluation process. So once you've decided what's been accomplished or may need further attention, then there's the ability to create those action plans. As we started off, and I mentioned how hard the work is right now across the country, we've talked throughout today about transformation teams. That's why we thought the whole superhero theme would be very important, because it does take superheroes like you all in this room to have the courage, to have the commitment. We all share a real passion for public education, but it's when you actually then put into work the things that you believe, you demonstrate to your community, to your staff, to your students, and to your parents that you have the courage to do it, that the transformation takes place. And I wanted to also take a second to just remind you that we have an excellence blog that you can get to through your eBOARD site or through our eBOARDsolutions website. But what's really powerful about this blog is that it's written by you people and your colleagues. So there's some great blogs about evaluations. There's some about other topics that you've heard mentioned today. And before I turn the presentation over to Dr. Wanda Creel from Barrow County, I just commend you for being here. I think events like this are professional development for all of you who work at the local level. You inspire us. I think together we will keep this passion and a belief that we can work better, we can work harder and smarter, and using tools like technology is that key.